Good evening, haunted explorers of the interwebs. I'm Alexa, resident ooky spooky girly, and since it's relevant today, Toronto resident. I'd pull out my ID to prove it, but you don't need to know the specifics about my life. So as someone who is pretty dang in tune with weird vibes, I feel more than qualified enough to chat about today's list with you all. So question for you, what's somewhere you're positive is haunted near you? Let me know in the comments, and welcome to the top 5 haunted places in Toronto hiding demonic entities. Number 5, Old City Hall. Built in the late 1890s and once the head seat of the municipality of Toronto and County of York, this building now serves the city as its municipal courts. The city's departments were moved to the modern buildings just west of this ornate building with, rather unique architecture. What's in this old building that interests us? Oh, easy. Stories reverberate of all types of different ghostly activity. The rear staircase has a poltergeist that seems to enjoy tugging at judges' robes, as well as walking up and down the stairs where its footsteps can still be heard. The haunting was first reported by Judge S. Tupper Bigelow, who said he would hear footsteps behind him and feel something pulling at his judicial robe. Now, the same experience happened to Judge Pete Wilch. The cellars acted at one time as a holding center for prisoners, and the moans of the incarcerated have been heard as well. The northwest attic is also a spot where a presence is felt, but nobody's quite sure what it is. Courtroom 33 boasts scary encounters of the spirits of what could be the last men sentenced to hang in Canada. The last 2 men to receive the death penalty were Ronald Turpin and Arthur Lucas. Both men were hung by the, neck, and there is actually doubt about their true guilt. Salvation Army chaplain Cyril Everett tried to save both of their lives but was sadly unsuccessful. Serving the spiritual needs of the condemned, he offered both of them last rites and absolution. Upon coming home from the Don jail, his son noticed his red-stained clothing. Now this was due to a miscalculation of the drop, with Arthur's head disconnecting. Yes, minus some connective tissue. So it's said that their ghosts still haunt the property to this day. Now that room is in demand every Halloween by ghost hunters, many of whom haven't been able to stay the full night because of the weird noises and cool fogs that left them glued to the floor. So if you feel like ghost hunting, have at it. Number 4, Casa Loma. If a place has secret tunnels, then chances are there's gonna be a few ghosties roaming around, including a stern-looking old man gazing out from a window, who by the way is probably Sir Henry Pellet, the castle's original owner, a British redcoat in the stable, and a lady in white walking the halls and somebody knocking in the tunnel. Sounds like a party. You know me, I love a good lady in white. So the white lady is believed to be a maid who worked there in the early 1900s, around the time when about 60,000 people in Toronto died of influenza. She's been seen in a lot of places by guests or by cleaning and cafeteria staff as they've been cleaning up at the end of the day. Poltergeists have been reported numerous times in upper levels as well as the basement. The castle even offers ghost tours, led by Canada's Most Haunted. According to Michelle Desrochers, CMH director and Casa Loma's de facto paranormal rep, they've had stories going on in there since the 1930s when the Kiwanis Club took over the castle. There have been plenty of Casa Loma ghost stories that pop up from time to time, such as, the appearance of a man tending to the garden in the indoor conservatory, or the sound of young people's voices when no young folks are around. Now, a few stories, however, are reported time and time again by different people. A woman believed to be Lady Mary has also been spotted on the grounds, although the rep has pointed out the notoriously private woman has proven elusive. At one point, the Canada's Most Haunted team attempted to film her room, leaving a camera running there while they explored other parts of the castle. When they returned to check the footage though, the tape was gone. According to mediums who have claimed to have felt the presence of Sir Henry and Lady Mary, their spirits aren't trapped there, they just choose to be there after, sadly they were ousted from Casa Loma after being unable to keep up with its costs. And obviously that place is very expensive to keep up. The tunnel leading to the castle stables are where another of its most notorious ghosts is believed to roam. Many have reported feeling as though they have been grabbed or had their hair pulled while in the tunnel. People have also reported hearing the spirit in the tunnel sighing gruffly. And he's even been captured in recordings, speaking and interacting with visitors. In one recording, he's been heard mimicking a medium who said, "Oh, he's a horrible person," while trying to make contact. Now once again, we consult the paranormal rep, and she says the evidence points to the voice belonging to the ghost of a friend of Sir Henry's, who was hired to look after, his prize-winning horses. Okay, maybe it's time to check in with my friends who have worked some events at Casa Loma to see if they've met any of the ghosties. Note to self. Number 3, Mysterion the Mind Reader's Home. Well, this might not be an entry on most popular lists. I'm speaking from experience when it comes to this location. So for those who might be unaware, Mysterion is a world-renowned mind reader and has been featured on shows such as America's Got Talent, Canada's Got Talent, and he's helped fool Penn and Teller, amongst many other accolades. Don't ask me how he does what he does. I genuinely don't know and I can't tell you. But what I do know, and I know this without a doubt, is that he happens to collect a whole slew of oddities and artifacts artifacts in his home/museum. So let's start with the team stuff, his toy collection. Personally, the most interesting things in my opinion are the rare gem dolls on display, the Shirley Temple doll that's still in the box, and the whole wall of wrestling figures. Now when I was first getting into wrestling, it was fun looking at the wall and testing my knowledge, and you know what, it still is. He also has a full Pee-wee Playhouse setup, a Star Wars section, a Superman section, and plenty more that I'm sure he'll show off to me next time I visit. But you know, I can't remember off the top of my head. But that's not the priority here. The oddities collection is. So while I tend to hold my breath whenever I visit the toy room, out of fear of accidentally making a tiny figure move, because I don't know how he gets them all in there, I'm a lot more fearful of the oddities collection. There's everything in that room. Shrunken heads, Atacama mummies, little mermaids, finger necklaces, necklaces of things I can't say on here, plenty of teeth, Victorian hair art. Hell, he used to have the Manson letters displayed on his wall. There's more taxidermy in that room than in most mainstream museums. Yeah, he has a special interest in albino taxidermy, don't ask. And proudly on display in the living room, in all their glory, are the cursed dolls that call this house a home, Leanne and Walt. Now if you're new to watching, I've actually brought Walt to the studio for a visit before, so I highly recommend watching the video I did on cursed dolls you've never heard of before. Walt is a porcelain baby doll that likes setting fires, and Leanne has a way with telekinesis. So as you can imagine, the place tends to come with its fair share of demonic activity. I've heard tales of jewelry boxes flying off of dressers, clothing items going missing, to make me never want to be in that home alone, or spend the night there. Number 2, the Keg Mansion. Once owned by the powerful Massey family, the Keg Mansion rates pretty high on the radar of Halloween thrill seekers and ghost enthusiasts. Hello. So apparently once upon a time, a maid working for the Masseys was found dead above the main staircase, and it said some nights you can see her hanging from a rope above the front entrance. Apparently the maid took her life because of grief over Lillian's death, or she might have been knocked up by one of the Massey's sons and couldn't bear the shame. I'm going with the latter. Other sightings include weird happenings in the woman's washroom, a young boy playing on the staircase, and other young folks frolicking upstairs and in the kitchen. Now during the time the Massey family owned the mansion, Lillian Massey did pass away in the second floor bedroom of the house. Now her ghost is said to be roaming the woman's washroom on the same floor. Now I have walked by the mansion a number of times when I used to live nearby. Heck, I've even had dinner there once. But I managed to avoid anything following me home, which thank goodness, I have enough demonic energy in my life as it is. I own a couple of demon dolls. It is what it is. Number 1, Exhibition Place. It should come as no surprise that one of Toronto's oldest collections of buildings at Exhibition Place has a few spine-tingling tales to tell. Jacqueline Edwards, senior archivist at Exhibition Place, compiled a list of the site's spookiest stories. So the General Services building at 2 Manitoba Drive is likely the most haunted building on the grounds. Staff members have heard whistling and footsteps in the hallways, crashing noises with no evidence that anything fell, and the sounds of a cocktail party taking place behind closed doors, like complete with music, drinking glasses, and then there's nobody there. Now perhaps the ghostly noises can be linked to not one, but 2 horrible deaths at the building. Built in the early 1900s, the General Services building was originally a hydroelectric power station, but now houses the Exhibition Place Operations Division, security, and yeah, the archives. In April of 1912, it was the site of a chilling killing. I like a good run. Junk dealer Joseph Rosenthal was found dead in the hydroelectric yard. The only witness to the crime was also attacked and barely survived, but managed to crawl up Strawn Avenue to find help. A hydro employee named Charles Gibson was found responsible, and the death appeared to be over a scrap metal deal that went sour. A few years later, in 1924, another man died in the basement of the building. Michael Sullivan died on Thursday, October 9th, electrocuted while trying to restore power to the city after a devastating fire. Over in the Stanley Barracks, staff members have heard knocking on doors, and then there's nobody there. Sensors often go off in the building for no reason, doors become suddenly unlocked, and items have been moved out of place. After a 13-month investigation of the X, Richard Palmisano, a paranormal activity investigator, found the barracks had the most ghostly activity, including his favorite spirit, a young girl named Jenny. Now Jenny is apparently looking for her cat. She died in an accident, her scarf got tangled, and well, you make of that what you will, but she's there, and her father's looking after her. Sadly, the barracks also has some negative energy. There's 2 individuals that gravitate to the basement. Nasty people. One's named Bob, and his buddy Dave or David, and they actually terrorize the other spirits. For historical context, the barracks was built in 1841 and originally consisted of 6 buildings, but only one remains today, the officers' quarters, which is now a part of the Hotel X, complex. Moving on, built in 1931, the Horse Palace is largely empty throughout the year, only occupied by the Toronto Police Mounted Unit and a riding academy year-round. The riding academy staff have heard phantom horses walking above their heads on the 2nd floor, and several cleaning and security staff have seen a ghostly officer riding his horse, who tends to vanish when they take a second look. During the Second World War, the exhibition grounds was actually a military camp from 1940 to 46. The Horse Palace was used as a barracks for soldiers waiting for training and then to head over, overseas. And for many folks, this was their last memory of Toronto. So around more than 12,000 men went through the Horse Palace, and quite a few never came back. So many security officers have also mentioned that the horticulture building seems to be the worst in terms of things that go bump in the night. The ghostly activity may have something to do with the building's gruesome past. On September 18th of 1949, this building became a temporary morgue for the burned victims victims of the SS Neuronic. The ship was docked in Toronto when it burned, killing 118 passengers. The victims were laid out on tables throughout the building. Doctors and nurses worked with police investigators to identify the bodies so the next of kin could claim them, but so many were badly burned and could only be identified by dental records and fingerprints. And one spooky story, a security officer on duty once responded to an alarm in the middle of the night in the basement and found a water valve had been twisted open, allowing water to freely pour into the room. But this valve could only be opened with fire department equipment, so the firefighters, turned off the valve and they were like, what the heck? Now when left alone again, the officer heard the sound of someone trying to open the door. The force being used, kind of unnerved the officer, so running towards the noise, he kicked the crash bar, forcing the door to open to find nobody on the other side. Shaken and pale, he returned to the security office, only to learn his adventure occurred on the anniversary of the ship's disaster. And that brings us to the end of our time, and maybe it's time I look into being a professional ghost walk hostess or something. If you enjoyed my ramblings today, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you weren't already, hit the bell for more haunted content from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.